Old age. This season, eternal, inevitable, signals the coming of yet another. The end is not the end, but the whole purpose of the beginning. So these leaves mix with the earth to nourish others, and when the snow is gone, they become the shade of another spring.
What is the one thing that holds the picture together? It's the C word. And there really is no definition for it. Composition. And I say there's no definition for it because composition, right? The photography and the photojournalism educators and all that will tell you composition is something that you bring to the table. It is your way of singing. It's your way of composing. Need to study and think of these compositional elements and all these things to the point where they become second nature. You got a split second to have all that calibrated in your mind. Robert Capa was a famous photographer who, one of the founders of the photo agency Magnum, M-A-G-N-U-M, but he always said, if your pictures aren't good enough, you're not close enough. Which is another way of saying, get close to your subject.
Where I'm going to start in Wichita, Kansas, where I'm from. And I knew his sister, who played bridge with my mother and their bridge club. And the reason I mention them is because they were very stylish, very educated people. And that's the kind of person that Gordon Parks was. In a beautiful building right next to the United Nations building. And he had a big baby grand piano in his living room. Now, I know he went to Paris, and that's when he fell in love with music and art, and he even says that Paris became his mistress. I mean, Paris was so much a part of him that it was like he was enlivened by being in Paris.
Dad's really great love was art. He wanted to be a painter, to be recognized. But he never really painted, except when he did photography in conjunction with painting to form his artwork. We traveled across the Atlantic 7 days. It was the first time I had ever been on a ship on the ocean, and it was quite an experience. We anchored in a place called La Havre, which is the seaport about 100 miles from Paris. After we got off the boat, and Dad took our car over there. We got our car off the boat. We all climbed in, and we took off for Paris. You will take your cameras, and you will walk the streets and visit the places that we visited.
Take shots of the buildings. Take shots of the streets. Take shots of anything you can that's attractive to you.
I needed Paris. It was a feast, a grand carnival of imagery, and immediately everything good there seemed to offer sublimation to the inner desires that had for so long been hampered by racism back in America. For the first time in my life, I was relaxing from tension and pressure. my thoughts continually rampaging against racial conditions were suddenly becoming as peaceful as snowflakes. Slowly, a curtain was dropping between me and those soiled years.
Oh my God, we're up in the air. We're up in the air. Oh my God.
Arise was very excited to say yes to this project. It's who we are. Arise stands for African Americans Renewing Interest in Spirituals Ensemble. We are about education. We teach cultural appreciation through music and storytelling. And so when this opportunity came to us, of course we wanted to be a part. For every song, especially as it relates to the Underground Railroad, there's a story behind that, very moving story. All of the stories are not about escape. Sometimes they are about surviving a situation you know you cannot get out of. And that resonates with young and old who may be in a situation right now that they cannot get out of. You learn how to work through it. And these songs teach you how.
Come on and wade in the water. trouble the water.
Hi, I'm Kim Powell, and I am from Winsted, Connecticut. Really, really tiny, tiny town in northwestern Connecticut, and I've lived in Paris now for 30 years. And here at the cathedral, I oversee the outreach projects. So anything that we do that's in community, working with refugees, food distribution to underserved people, Christmas gifts to kids who are mostly from migrant and refugee communities. My dad actually was a photographer, amateur photographer, video actually. He would go out and shoot jazz concerts because he was also a jazz aficionado. So I couldn't go to those concerts, but I was out and about with him.
I've been singing all my life. Being from Wichita, Kansas, it was a situation where you were told, okay, if you want to run off, be a model or an actress or a singer, any of those things, you better have a real job. So I have been singing on the side for most of my life, and I've had the pleasure of singing all over the world in about at least 14 different countries in Africa, in Russia, in Sweden, in London, many places, and in France, of course, and in the U.S.
My name is Jake Lamar. I'm a writer. I grew up in the Bronx, New York. The reason I was inspired to come to Paris was reading first James Baldwin when I was a kid, then Richard Wright. I learned that these were two great African-American writers who had lived in Paris. Later, when I was 15, 16, 17, I read Ernest Hemingway, F. Scott Fitzgerald, Gertrude Stein, Henry Miller, all these great American writers who had come to Paris. And so I was just curious. I thought, well, what is it about this place? I had never traveled outside of the States until I was 32 years old. And it was after I'd published my first book, a memoir called Bourgeois Blues. That book won a prize, which was just a 3-year grant. And I thought, okay, here's my chance. I'm going to go to Paris for 1 year. That was 31 years ago. So,
my dad had Life magazines, and again, I'm kind of a news junkie. I didn't realize it when I was a little kid, but I was obsessed with the photos in magazines in general. But my dad wanted to make sure that I knew who Gordon Parks was, and he shared that with me. So that's where I met Gordon Parks, with my dad. Gordon Parks' life in Paris is his fashion work, because he was one of the first to have shot fashion in that way, with color and movement and people in the streets, and in ways that weren't in the tradition of the French photographers like Cartier-Bresson and those who had those spontaneous moments, which almost seemed staged. And what I loved about Gordon Parks is the fluidity and the movement and the color, and that just aligns with my aesthetic and my work.
I first discovered Gordon Parks when I was 10 years old and saw the movie Shaft. And I gotta say, this was a major moment for me. I realize looking back now, because at that age, I loved action movies. I loved James Bond. I loved crime movies with Humphrey Bogart and all these the private detectives. I loved that whole cinematic world. And then my mother took me to see Shaft when I was 10 years old, and here was a black man, Richard Roundtree, as the action hero, and it was amazing for me. So Parks, beyond being a great photographer, being a great filmmaker, he just seemed to me just this man of the world, a guy who traveled, did what he wanted, was his own man, and that was a big inspiration to me when I was a young man.
And for Gordon Parks, at the time that he was in Paris, it was a moment for him, I would imagine, to just be authentically here with his family, doing the work that he's doing, and not have to deal with the issues of being a black man in the world. And that is actually, this is a different time that I'm living in, but I absolutely feel my authentic self here in Paris and as an artist in ways that when I hit the States, I feel like I'm a woman of color. And when I'm here, I'm me.
The experiences that I had in school, from my teacher, Mrs. Job, taking me to have Chinese food for the first time, or a teacher taking me to see Harvey, the play, those experiences opened my eyes to things that I didn't know existed.
Right now, you're on Place de la Concorde, which is it was a royal kind of square historically. And now it's where the National Assembly is. A lot of the important embassies are here, including our embassy. Whenever I'm asked to speak to student groups about American diplomacy, I always say yes, because I found out what a diplomat was by being in a chair just like this. So I've been a diplomat for over 21 years. I came into the Foreign Service with Spanish. I wanted to work in Latin America. Didn't work out. 21 years in, I have never professionally worked as a diplomat in Latin America. I spent most of my career in the Middle East and North Africa.
That moment of me being able to take kids to Paris, to be able to follow in the steps of Gordon Parks, to fly on a plane for the first time, to have a passport, the only one in their family, ever in the history of their family to have a passport, right? To see things that kids in the northeast area of Wichita have not been able to see because financially they couldn't afford it, or it was not even a vision in their families' lives. We are literally breaking generational curses with this project.
In January of this year, just thumbing through the Community Voice paper there, I noticed the article there that said that Gordon Park, they were going to be sending students to Paris, following in the footsteps of Gordon Park. And they would like to get some assistance from people in the community. And I, having known Gordon Park and some of the things that they've done and been involved in it, that kind of popped in my mind. Well, hey, I can maybe contribute to, maybe sponsor one of the kids. That would be something that I could do.
And so, no, it may not be about finding the next Gordon Parks, but it definitely is about inspiring students to possibly be the change agent in their family like Gordon was for his family. Think about it. If he never became who he became, would his family have had the things that they have and they were able to do? I would say not. So it is a trajectory changing experience for all of the students.
Kids, when they're young like this, they are kind of inquisitive, and and you never know. I'm hoping that maybe one or two of them, will kind of something would spark them by this trip, that they would see that, hey, I think I might want to do this.
My favorite thing so far is when you're in the subway, the people getting on and off, the artists, like you'll see a guy playing guitar, you see a guy singing, you see a guy playing drums, people just walking past it like it's another day thing. I like, building more character into the photography more. Paris is, no matter what, it's different.
Okay, so yeah, I'm just trying to get the whole crane over there and frame just for like a street photography. And since there's a lot of construction, like over there, right there, and then somewhere over there, where there is construction, it's just like really common to see it. So it would be a really good photo for the construction. But the lens is too long 75 is too zoomed in, so I'm gonna have to change it out to 18 to 55 to try to get the whole crane and frame.
So I decided to do this project because of the significance of the civil rights, of what Gordon Parks did. Not only in the era that he did it in, but also what it meant for people like me in this generation to actually have an opportunity today.
Even being here in Paris, where they're hearing people who look like them speak a different language, and the wonder that comes into their eyes, or the questions that they have about whether it is the cuisine that they're eating here, or the people that they see, or the places that they've gone. It's questioning, it's bringing a sense of discovery, but they're inquiring. Just the fact that, wow, this is something that I could do.
I would like for this particular project to be a stepping stone, and I want these students to actually be the pillars of that stepping stone. That yes, they can actually make a difference, and they can actually contribute to our society and to our future. The future is theirs, not ours anymore.
I would say everything you hear, you could probably take a picture of. Like everything you see, you can take a picture of because all the grass is green. I can see myself here in the future.
Hold on just a little while longer. Everything will be all right. Everything will be all right. This world is full of sorrows. There are trials on every hand, but God's gonna wipe your tears away. He's gonna lead you to the promised land, and we're gonna pray on children.
It's no doubt that for a group of students living in the States or anywhere that would come and visit here and leave your environment and the people you know and expand your mind to understand that people actually live other places. You don't just travel there.
Coming to Paris impacted my future because it basically allowed me to see a much broader perspective. And that came from being raised in the hood, where we were taught in the hood that we had to represent and we had to make a difference. And so when I came to Paris, it was because I knew that I could, and it just continued to propel me to say, and there's other parts of the world I want to see too, and there's nothing that I shouldn't be able to see.
I think when the kids go back home, this will stay with them forever. I mean, there's nothing like traveling to just blow open your mind. I mean, and sometimes it's just the little things, you know, the architecture, the sidewalk cafes, the way people move in the street, the hearing a different language. I mean, as I said, I didn't travel outside the United States until I was 32 years old. To imagine having this experience as a teenager, I think it just gives you a sense of adventure and openness and possibility.
It gives you the opportunity to dream beyond a dream that comes from an imaginary thing. You've experienced it. You've been someplace else. You've heard a different language. You've met different people and found different architecture and whatever it might be. And that, when you bring it back, it just reminds you of the possibilities of what is possible, whether you ever travel again, whether you continue in thinking that you're going to do photography or art, just the idea that there's something else you've had it, it stays with you and it guides you on your journey for the rest of your life.
I know we welcome American students from Kansas. C'est correct? Donc c'est des étudiants d'Amérique du Kansas. Et so we're gonna start first with a presentation of your school and your activity with Michael. On va commencer d'abord avec une présentation par Michael. Et ensuite, on va, and then we're gonna have just a chat with our photographer here, Jebosh. He's gonna talk with you about photography, as everybody is here for that.
For the next couple of hours, okay, think pictures. No Facebook, no Instagram, no.
Very hard.
Yes. You know, think pictures. Just give me a few hours.
Okay. Right now, the photography, I like the photography right now because we actually currently have a model that we are working with, and she's working with us. She's standing where we want her to, making poses for us to take pictures of. So that's going well. Other than the chaos elements, Paris is pretty good. I'd say that it's a pretty nice place. Could be a bit crowded, but yeah, other than that, yeah, I like it here. But other than other places I'd like to go, maybe one day we go to Hawaii or something. That'd be a nice place to go to.
Summer warm September, we should meet again somewhere. I hope you'll still remember my name.
On m'a toujours demandé pourquoi mon travail était assez dark, assez sombre, pourquoi je choisis le noir et blanc. Pourquoi j'ai un œil assez particulier, assez sombre, quoi. C'est pas forcément un choix en fait, c'est même une obligation pour moi. C'est ce que je suis, c'est ce que je vis, c'est ma façon d'être, c'est ma façon de penser. Donc mon art me ressemble en fait. Dans mon style vestimentaire, dans mon style de film, dans mes styles musicaux, je vais toujours écouter ce qui me ressemble. Donc dans le hip-hop, je vais écouter le rap un peu plus new-yorkais, old school, parce que c'est ce qui me ressemble et c'est ce que je vais produire dans mon art. Donc ça va me ressembler personnellement. Moi, la base de ma photographie, c'est la crédibilité. Je fais ce qui me ressemble, je fais ce qui me... C'est vraiment le prolongement de ma vie. C'est la suite logique de mes pensées, mon travail.
But do you like learning?
Yeah, yeah. My mom's a teacher, so I kind of grew up learning a lot and reading and writing and
So you're
words, math, all that.
So you're lucky.
Yeah.
You're lucky because your mother is helping you to love learning.
Yeah.
Richard didn't have that. Nobody around him gave him any help to learn. So he got to do it all by himself, but he knew he would get his freedom through learning. So good for you. He stopped novels, he stopped political writing, and he went into his poetry.
But he's still writing up until the end.
Yes, but it became something else. It became lighter, still very powerful, but it's like he let all his emotions come. And I think this was a kind of a way of feeling accomplished. He wrote 4,000 haikus.
Wow.
In his last 2 years, he was writing them all the time. He would come in these cafes and he would have his haiku pads under his arm. And like people sketch or draw, he would write. Haiku is like paintings. It's little. So if you get pleasure in writing, then you're lucky. Making the most of life, which is important too. Well, maybe this trip will make you want to come back someday. This is how it started for Richard Wright. And one day he came here and he never went back.
Will reconcile the difference of which road you take. There will be signposts along the way, giving out devious directions. Now it's your right to question them, but don't ignore them. Each one is meant for something. And you will learn that all things are really not the same. That you must select your friends with the same care I gave to choosing your mother, or maybe the wood to build fences. Avoid things that die too easily, and get yourself ready to die well. And don't get old by yourself, and don't be surprised when, as you grow older, you begin to pray more and worry less. And remember most that everything I have told you might very well amount to everything, or perhaps nothing. But be most thankful, son, if in autumn you can still manage a smile.
It was the first time that a black director had an opportunity to do a studio film.
That's right. Not only that, they asked me not to only direct it, but to write the music, to write the screenplay, and produce it as well.